The most unlucky hero of all time. But not only do his peers refuse to be friends with him, even the girl he likes ignores him. Obviously his strength is not annoying, but he has to be taunted as a loser who relies on his parents. The boy's name is Yard, and in his last life he was a demon king that everyone feared. Because he was so powerful that he had never experienced defeat, he decided that life was becoming less and less interesting. As fewer and fewer people were able to defeat him, he realized that he might never be ordinary again. So he decided to seek change in his next life. In this life, Yard is reborn as a teenager from an ordinary family, but his memories and strength from his previous life are still there. He hoped to make friends this time, but retaining his kingly aura caused him to be out of place with the other kids. No matter how much he initiated his friendship, no one wanted to talk to him. With repeated rejection, Yard can't even help but want to destroy the world and start over. Just then he meets a young girl who is fighting a wild monster. While he wanted to help, he saw that the young girl was able to handle herself, and decided to stand aside and observe. After the battle was over, he took it upon himself to walk up and try to make friends with the maiden. However, the young girl has a history of being bullied and once again rejects Yard's kindness. After returning home, Yard learns that the girl he just met is his father's best friend's daughter Irina, and he thinks it's all meant to be. And so he began to pursue the young girl frantically and even inquired about all the information about her. Yard began to chase after Irina every day, but this made Irina even more afraid of Yard. This night the village is attacked by kobolds. Yard learns that Irina hasn't come home yet and speeds to the mountains to look for her. Then Irina was being surrounded by kobolds, and Yard arrived in time to rescue her. With just a look, Yard easily takes care of the kobolds. After this incident, Irina is finally willing to accept Yade. At this moment, the former demon king finally has his first friend. Yade had always thought that he would be an ordinary person in his life. But on the day school started, he realized that his seemingly normal parents were actually the great magician who had defeated the evil god back then. And as their child, even if he fails his exams, he can still be admitted. In this way, he completely became the man of the hour in the school. And sure enough, as soon as Yard entered the classroom, he was surrounded by his classmates. Just then he saw Yellow Hair next to him bullying a chimera and rushed forward to stop it. However, he was provoked by Yellow Hair, who said that this was his family's servant, and he didn't need Yard, who relied on his parents to enroll in school, to meddle in his business. A very sexy teacher was attracted to stop the fight. Hearing this familiar voice, Yard panicked. This person was Olivia, one of the 4 heavenly kings under him. If he was found to have left his work behind and sneaked here, he would have been completely defeated. The good thing is Olivia didn't find out anything but offered to be the referee, agreeing that the two of them should use their strength to speak. Once the game started, Yellow Hair came with a cool-looking lightning attack. The effect was good, but unfortunately there was not much attack power. Yard shocked the crowd with a casual chantless spell. Then Yellow Hair used his best move, the giant-level cooked flame technique. The flames are just like warm air, but it's a shame for the founder of the magic to use the word giant level. Let me show you what real magic means. It has been proven that the more people like to clamor, the less powerful they are. But this time the commotion made a bit too much, making Olivia next to him notice that he was using double magic at the same time. But Yard thought it was nothing unusual. It was only 2 kinds, it's not like there were a dozen. If he didn't give Yellow Hair a defensive magic, he would probably turn into air. But Olivia told him that using double magic at the same time is called an impossible technique in this day and age, so why don't you have that kind of common sense? Seeing that Yade was frozen, Olivia didn't go any further and started her lesson. The content is very simple and straightforward. Directly start the actual combat, divided into groups of 3 to crusade 3 black wolves skinning his skin. Irina saw Ginny, the isolated phantom demon, next to her, and proposed to Yade to team up with her. Seeing that a few low-level black wolves in the area had scared Ginny, Yard felt something was wrong. The phantom demon clan should be very talented in magic. Presumably the long years of bullying made her lose her self-confidence. So Yard decided to come and guide Ginny. Only to see him so casually gesticulating, he created his own word unraveling magic on the spot that didn't consume magic power or physical strength. Ginny also quickly mastered the technique, and happily pounced on it. Seeing this scene, Irina, not to be outdone, also went up and hugged Yade. They ended up accidentally falling into the floor master's room. Then it was the Minotaur's turn to make an appearance. I just want to say to him, can we pretend we didn't see it? Otherwise it's another chance for the main character to show off. The poor Minotaur was used as teaching material by Yard. The 2 girls next to him saw it, and adored it. In order to help Ginny regain her confidence, Yard left the last blow to her. The Minotaur is not the Minotaur, but the inferiority complex that Ginny has overcome. Just like that, the strongest demon king in history gained another friend. What a wonderful day. Just as Yard was about to run away, he was stopped by Olivia, who said she wanted to patch him up alone. On this day, Ginny the Chimera reaches out to Yard and invites him on a date with her. The first thing that happened was that Yard was thinking about it, and he wanted to refuse. But when he saw the look of anticipation and shyness on her face, who could stand it, so he couldn't help but agree. Seeing that Jade was about to be snatched away, Irina rushed over, thinking, "I treat you as a good friend, but you came to snatch my man." So she hastened to say that she wanted to come along. Ginny was not only completely fine with it, she was also happy to welcome Irina. After all, she didn't want to enjoy it alone. Instead, she hoped that a powerful and handsome man like Yard should have many harems of many people. Irina inquired curiously, "What is a harem?" Ginny said somewhat smugly, "So you don't know what a harem is," and came over to tell her. Irina blushed when she heard it. The three of them are going to meet at a theater. Seeing Ginny in this grand outfit, I had to give her a compliment. It seems like Yard not only helped Ginny get her confidence back last time, but also activated her seductive attributes. Ginny asked Yard how she looked in this outfit. Yard was naturally full of praise. Irina is a little jealous and asked Yard to do the same for the two of them. What's being performed on stage is the story of Yard's past life. The outrageous plot made Yard not even want to spit. For example, the main female character Lydia is obviously a strong-blooded woman in reality, but on the stage she was played as a delicate little daughter-in-law. Then Ginny suddenly hugged the male lead. The soft touch made Yard a little caught off guard. Seeing Ginny's behavior, Irina is also not willing to be weak. In the face of two beautiful maidens throwing their arms around each other, coupled with this double touch, even our strongest demon king began to be unsettled and couldn't help but float. After watching the play, Ginny plans to take them both to a very nice place. On the way there, Yard covered Irina's eyes for fear that she would be stained with those strange colors. When they came near an alleyway, they saw a group of people of unknown origin sneaking around. On closer inspection, they were actually premeditating to take control of the queen. In order to figure out the reason, the three followed them to the underground, not realizing that it was a trap. Without saying a word, the leader of the opposite side cast fire magic at Yard. However, how can this little flame hurt him? In front of the absolutely strong, the weak are only surprised. Yard said that he didn't have the time to waste time with these little minions. After saying that, he casually snapped his fingers and summoned a lightning magic formation, and the minions were instantly annihilated. Yard deliberately left the leader behind, wanting to ask them what their purpose was. But how could the other party obediently tell the purpose? He directly showed his magic archetype, used magic to open a hole in the wall, and then fled to the ground. He used his magic to open a hole in the wall and fled towards the ground. The two of them were a bit stunned, so it turns out that people can also fly. The demons who came to the ground saw a little girl and grabbed her, trying to threaten Yard with this. In order to calm the people's panic, Yard shows that he is the son of a great magician and informs the people that the demon is under his control and is no different from a corpse. The demon felt insulted and quickly said that he had a hostage in his hand. The demon felt insulted and said that he had a hostage in his hand, but as soon as he finished speaking, he realized that the person in his hand was no longer there. It turned out that Yard had used illusionary magic. The situation is unfavorable. The demon race once again fled. But how could Yard allow the enemy to escape from under his nose? He used his magic to knock them down. After solving the incident, Yard received congratulations from everyone and was given the opportunity to meet the queen. The queen said, "Since you have made such a great achievement, let's reward you to be my husband." When this was said, the male lead directly froze in place, and Irina also stood up and objected. Looking at the crowd's reaction was so great, the queen had to change the reward and promote Yade to the 5th rank of magical instructor. But this caused opposition from the ministers, who felt that civilians could not enjoy this reward. Yard had to ask for the reward to be changed to increase the budget of their school. But to his surprise, the queen rewarded him with both the promotion and the budget. Irina and Ginny also received a commendation at the same time. Yad thought to himself, how could this be? But the queen stated that everything I have is yours if you promise me. At Ginny's instigation, Yard is courted by a bunch of girls showing their love. There are confessions like this one every day. The woman who saves the day is the one who is more exaggerated, and after hearing that Yard rejects her, she even tries to use strong-arm tactics to have a relationship with Yard. Then Irina rushed in and showed the majesty of the main court. The woman was scared and rushed away. Seeing her saddened expression, it's clear that she's angry at Yard's recent behavior. In the evening, Yard is thinking about how to make Irina happy, but Ginny suddenly comes into the room. Looking at this outfit, looking at this kind of operation, I believe everyone understands what she wants to do. But the Demon King lacks all this common sense, and is actually worried that she might catch a cold if she dresses like this. Ginny said that although she wanted to help Yard develop his harem, she didn't want his virginity to be taken by another woman, so she was going to taste it first. And Irina on this side is still foolishly thinking about what happened during the day, and has no idea what's happening on the other side. And the foolish Yard didn't understand what she wanted to do, so Ginny unleashed her charm skill on him, making him unable to move. Then she pressed him down on the bed and mouthed, "It's my first time too, it's okay, just leave it to me." Just as she was about to enter the exciting part, she was interrupted by Irina, who came running. Seeing the stance of the two of them, she was instantly unsettled. Ginny teased her for being too small for the pattern and that she herself hadn't run to the boys' room dressed like this. Irina stated that she had come to make up with Yard, adding that it was something she was taught by her mother that no man would disagree with her if she came to ask for a man in a colorful dress. Ginny listened and continued to taunt that she was still a childish little kid. This enrages Irina and offers to fight her in a duel. The loser is not allowed to go near Yard again. Ginny accepts the challenge with confidence, but she's even tougher than Irina, adding an outrageous demand: the loser has to run naked around the kingdom. The two of them are in the middle of a fight, and they have to run naked around the city. Yard thinks it's inappropriate to argue over such a trivial matter. Yard told them to apologize to each other or they would not get any food. Just then a pretty girl with a double ponytail bursts in. The ponytail teacher overhears the argument, and suggests that they go to the school's competition. This way not only can they decide the winner, but the winner can also see Yard in her teacher's uniform, which instantly energizes them. And the referees were these three old acquaintances. The elf men are carefully analyzing the match. Yard's dad doesn't think it's fun to have a little fight. But Yard's mom loves it, and thinks these girls have such great bodies that she wants to talk to them in private about their lives. It's Irina's turn and her opponent launches a flaming attack on her and Irina accidentally falls over. Then she saw Yard praying outside the arena and thought she was cheering for her, instantly burning up her fighting spirit. She defeated her opponent with a move of unwritten magic. In fact, Yard was hoping that she would lose the match. After all, she didn't want to become a teacher of any kind. Ginny was not to be outdone. The two of them beat their respective opponents and made it to the finals. The next step is the harem contest, which will determine who wins and who loses. But at this critical moment a group of demons appeared under the field wreaking havoc, and not just in this place. The twin ponytail teacher rushed over to set up a plan to deal with the situation. She went to take care of Irina and Ginny's side and asked Yard and Kadir's teacher to act individually to deal with the demons in other places. The two on the stage were being suppressed by the demons, but with their cooperation they could barely manage. Then the ground suddenly cracked and a diamond demon statue emerged. Irina and Ginny attacked at the same time, but it didn't work at all. At this critical moment Irina's dad rushed over and used his powerful wind magic to break the statue into pieces. Irina was still bragging about how powerful her dad was, but the next moment tragedy struck. The twin ponytails licking blood in front of her turned out not to be their teacher but the mad dragon King Elzid. They were coming for Irina this time. Ginny launched an attack on them, trying to cover Irina's escape, but the strength gap was too great to defeat the other party. Seeing Elzid trying to kill Ginny, Irina rushes straight to her and hugs her, only to be stopped by her opponent. She threatened Elzid with her own life if she were to harm Ginny. She would now bite her tongue and kill herself. After all, it was to be taken alive, and Elzada had to agree to her demands. The Ginny could only watch as Irina was taken away. And at that moment the Demon King was still on the other side of the room beating up the little monsters. After learning that Irina was captured by the mad dragon King, Yard was enraged. Even if the other party is in existence that can destroy the world, so what? Yard said he didn't care at all, he just wanted to rescue Irina as soon as possible. Then the elf man brought Yard to the king's castle store and let him use the weapons inside at will. Yard then chose such an outfit. Just as he was about to leave, Ginny ran over and expressed her desire to go along to rescue Irina, but was rejected by Yard outright. After all, the enemy is too dangerous this time. Then he instructed Ginny to just cook a sumptuous dinner and wait for their triumphant return. After that he flew in the direction of his target. And the reason why Irina was captured was because she had the bloodline of an evil god in her body. And this lizard monster prepares using her as a sacrifice to resurrect the evil god. Then she summoned a large-mouthed monster. It was made from several pieces of the god's flesh, and it was called the Orphan of Chaos. The product of the evil god along with Irina's blood can awaken the evil god himself, who has been sealed in the other dimension. Irina doesn't understand why she's doing this. However, the bad guys basically act with the same philosophy. They all act out of hatred for others, thus sprouting the idea of taking revenge on the world. This mad dragon king was the same, and from thousands of years ago she had intended to destroy the world that made her unhappy. Irina was confident that Yard would arrive, but was afraid that if her identity was revealed she would lose the only person who had ever accepted her. Then the ritual had begun and two tentacles slowly reached out towards Irina. But don't worry, there's no drama that you're expecting, she's a heroine after all. Just as the eye was about to touch Irina's face, a flash of light suddenly emerged and the monster instantly turned into ashes. As the crowd looked on, Yard made a handsome entrance greeting the men cordially. After that he casually entertained them with a ninefold magic. Only the Berserk Dragon King barely dodged it, and all the other minions were instantly killed. Irina, who was rescued, excitedly rushed over and hugged Yard. Seeing the two of them interacting sweetly there, the mad Dragon King directly brought out the fact that Irina was the descendant of an evil god. But Yade was not swayed by these words. Instead, he thought that a gentle and kind person like Irina, even if she was really an evil god, he would not care. Seeing that his ploy to sow discord was ineffective, the berserkers launched a magical attack at them, but Yard easily blocked it, unleashing a fire magic on the other side in the process. The confident berserker king thought that this kind of attack could not harm her. So Yard threw the lance in her hand and hit her opponent hard in the stomach, sending him flying over 10 meters away. With a few flashes of lightning, a silver-white dragon emerged from the clouds, and the mad dragon king, who had revealed his original form, launched his dragon spit at them. Seeing this, Yard also had to get serious. The golden female statue he summoned defended against the full force of the mad dragon king's strike. Immediately after that, the female statue changed into a magic sword. Yade grabbed the sword and had an air battle with the dragon king. During the fight, the dragon king kept on attacking Yade, verbally trying to disturb his mind. At this point, a cheer from Irina revitalizes Yard's fighting spirit. In this form, Yard could easily understand the way his opponent's magic was constructed, even the nature of his mind, by analyzing, understanding, and dominating. Then both of them unleashed their jutsu at the same time, preparing for the final blow. While Irina still had some concerns in her heart, she saw that Yard didn't care about her identity, so she didn't get upset anymore. So she secretly resolved to become stronger so that she could continue to stay by Yard's side. On the other side of the screen, after 3 years of training, Sylphie finally gained the ability to easily defeat the demons. But when she walks out in Labyrinth City, she realizes that the village is not what it used to be, and she is treated as a stranger by others. Is it possible for such a drastic change to happen in 3 years? Sylphie was confused. Then a masked man approached her and told her the truth. This is the appearance after 3,000 years, because the flow of time in the labyrinth is different from the outside world. It turns out that the masked man was also one of the Demon King's men. When she hears that the Demon King is dead, Sylphie is shocked and worried about her sister Lydia. The masked man tells her that although the Demon King is dead, his soul has been reincarnated into the current world and is living a happy life as Yard. If she wants to know anything about Lydia, she should ask this reincarnated person. Sylphie then went to Yard's school. Yade was flustered to see another familiar face. Sylphie questioned his classmates one by one, threatening to beat up Yard. At that moment, Ms. Beast Ear arrived and stopped Sylph's rampage, reprimanding her severely. The Beast Ear teacher arrives and stops her from going on a rampage, scolding her severely. Yard, who is snickering, is caught by Sylph publicly identifying him as the Demon King reincarnated and asking a series of questions. In the face of Sylphie's questioning, Yard put on an innocent look. Irina felt a little puzzled, but Ginny said it was nothing unusual. After all, Yard's strength is so strong. Sylphie wanted to use the duel to recognize the truth, so he provoked Yard and taunted him. Then Irina couldn't stand it anymore and stepped forward to accept the challenge for Yard. This moment, Sylphie from Irina, as if to see the shadow of Lydia, immediately became gentle. Their conversation aroused the Beast Ear teacher's interest, so she agreed that they should have a duel just to verify what Sylphie said. Then the two of them went to the countryside. With Irina cheering, the fight begins. The two of them are fighting at such a high level that if they keep fighting like this, they will be exposed. But Sylphie was so smart that she kept on provoking Yard, trying to force him to use his full strength. In the face of her mockery, Yard was a little angry, originally intended to intentionally lose in a move to show contempt, but accidentally serious. Seeing his trembling hands, Yard appreciated Sylphie's hard training. But Sylphie did not accept this result. Obviously, he worked so hard to become so strong, and then raised his hand as a magic formation, summoned the magic sword towards Yard to launch a strong magic attack. But it was still defended by Yard. This reckless attack made Yard feel angry, but he was just about to fight seriously when he was called out by Beast Ear teacher. It turned out that the magic sword in Sylphie's hand, in the process of using it, would emit magic poison, and the students around him had already fallen into a mess. The Beast Ear teacher criticized her severely. Even after 3,000 years, you're still an emotional person. How would your sister feel if she saw that? Then Irina came over and accused her that even though she was strong, she shouldn't act recklessly without regard to the safety of others. But looking at the sad and crying Sylphie, Irina couldn't help but touch her head again and comfort her carefully. At this moment, even the hero felt as if she was the Lydia of that year. The scene shifted and soon came to the annual school festival event. Yad emphasizes to himself that the two of them are on patrol, not enjoying themselves. But is that really the case? It's clearly a date, all right. Just as the two were there enjoying this rare sweet time, an explosion suddenly came from the distance. It turned out that it was Sylphie who made the commotion. She balked at the fact that the older man in front of her was a demon. The Beast Ear teacher came over and explained that this was the owner of the restaurant she frequented and was not a demon. It was only then that Sylphie realized she had made another mistake. Then Beast Ear teacher mentioned to them about the school's grand finale, the Sword King martial arts competition, saying that she would also be attending and had taken the liberty of enrolling the hero. Yade was speechless and tried to get out of it, but was forced to attend by Beast Ear, or else she would have to unilaterally jump to conclusions about something. Yade said straight away, she is really mean. Sexy Maid Cafe. The simple and easy to understand name left Yard already powerless to spit it out. When he tried to go in, he was shocked. Looking at the angry Sylphie in front of him, Yard said to leave it to him. When he finished, he casually snapped his fingers fixing the boy and then used his magic to repair the wall. After helping Sylphie with this matter, he received an invitation from two maid sisters. It was obvious that they couldn't impress Yard with their charms. Then the heavyweights came on stage, and once he saw the two little hearts in Ginny's eyes, Yard instantly couldn't stand it. While he's enjoying the rare experience, Irina suddenly arrives. Ginny said that they were just serving their master, while Irina thought that she could do this little thing. So she changed into her maid's outfit and made a declaration of independence. Yad'll be the one to serve, so all of you get out of the way. This is the first time I've ever seen a woman in a house. Just as they were arguing over grabbing Yard, they were interrupted by the sound of an announcement coming from the school. It mentioned that the final prize of the Sword King martial arts tournament was Lydia's magic sword. On hearing that it was related to her sister, Sylphie decisively decided to participate in the tournament. And Irina and Ginny were also planning to attend together. They both wanted to take this opportunity to continue the victory and defeat that was not decided in the previous competition. The host introduced the three special guests to the audience. Sylphie was looking forward to this, but her name wasn't even mentioned, so she had a very aggravated look on her face. Irina rushed over to comfort her. The first round of the elimination round, a few people won easily. When faced with the Beast Ear's teacher, the lad surrendered directly. And Ginny's side was a bit tricky because the other side had a lot of strength. The slash was too much for her tiny frame to handle. But after hearing Yard's cheering, Ginny instantly got her fighting spirit up and reversed the situation, defeating her opponent. Seeing that Irina and the girls are away, Ginny instantly gets excited and drags Yard to the school's popularity king auditions. Then a back figure in the crowd catches Yard's attention. At a closer look, it turned out to be the arrogant and domineering Golden Hair from before. Since being educated by Yard, Golden Hair started to stay at home all day, and as a result she became the way she is now. Seeing the change in Ginny now, Golden Hair repented of what he had done to her before. When he was a child, he originally decided to protect Ginny, but since he was in a noble family, that original intention faded away. And it was expected that the winners of the audition were Yard and Ginny. The next step is the duel between the siblings. Yard understood that it was a bit unrealistic to want to intentionally let go and lose in front of her. Facing Beast-Ear teacher's slashing and deadly attacks, Yard accidentally got serious. A rebound magic knocked her away. As a result, he was disqualified for violating the rules of the tournament. And Beast-Ear teacher didn't make it back in time and was treated as a forfeit. The harem ranking match follows. It's a good thing I like to see dueling between beautiful girls. Irina and Ginny fought while making a declaration of independence, and in the end the winner was decided with a single blow. Now it's time to take the throne. However, behind this calmness there is an undercurrent that is quietly surging. On this day, Yard and the others will put on a play, and the content of the play is the story of his past life. Seeing Irina in this costume, Sylphie remembered his sister. Because the heroine is playing the role of none other than Lydia the Brave. And while Ginny the Phantom is playing the drag queen, this time around Sylphie is playing the villain, a condescending and arrogant evil god. And Yard is playing himself in the right role. When he saw what was being played on stage, he recalled the battle he had once experienced. Then the scene switches to the period of the hero's previous life. The battle plan drawn up by the Demon Lord was to go with Lydia to fight the battle, but Sylphie objected, stating that she wanted to be with her sister. As a result, she was reprimanded by Lydia. Sylphie didn't dare to say anything in front of her sister's majesty. In fact, Lydia was worried about her safety. During the official battle, this old man was still in a bunch of nonsense, so much so that he didn't notice the traps under his feet, and as a result he got messed up by these little tricks. Lydia seized the moment, and quickly launched herself at him, finishing him off with a single blow. The evil god died so hastily. Then Sylphie said proudly that these were her masterpieces. But the not-so-smart one laid traps all over the ground and didn't mark them, causing people on her side to step on the traps as well. Though it was an easy win this time, it still left everyone bruised, and Sylphie got a taste of the fist. However, Lydia was pleased with her performance this time. While the approach was indeed a bit reckless, it didn't result in any sacrifices as a result. The scene cuts back to the present, and although these people didn't follow the script at all and were improvising the entire time, they still managed to finish the show smoothly. Then a cool Lydia-like person under the field caught Sylphie's attention, and she rushed over to call out to her, only to be disappointed. While Sylphie was lost in thoughts of her sister, the masked man from before suddenly appeared. Originally he was trying to use Sylphie against the male lead, but Sylphie seemed to have moved on to him. Then the masked man showed her the image of her sister before she died and began to coax her with flowery words. The innocent Sylphie easily believes in the masked man. Time comes to the final day of the Sword King martial arts tournament. Sylphie came up to Yard and told him that he would definitely win, and invited him to meet him under the Sword King's tree after the tournament. Ginny, upon hearing this, thought it was a confession. Irina looked confident but didn't expect to be instantly defeated by her opponent. Without saying a word, Sylphie just flashes and knocks her out. Afterward, she took the prize to the promised land. When Irina heard that this was a confession, she was instantly nonplussed and quickly tried to stop it but was stopped by Ginny. It didn't take long for Yard to come to the appointment. However, what was waiting for him was not a confession but a killing intent full of resentment. Then the sword in Sylphie's hand resonates with the tree next to him. The sword in Sylphie's hand resonates with the tree next to it, and the thing sealed under the tree is the same holy sword that Lydia the Brave used to use. Then she summoned her own holy sword, put on Gonna's armor, and swung at Yard with both swords in hand. After dodging a few moves, the hero uses his flight skill to lure her away from the school. At this point, the man behind the curtain is silently watching this from the sidelines and keeps letting out laughter. During the luring process, Yard was viciously slashed. Sylphie thought he was dead and planned to destroy everything here. She thinks that the world without her sister is not worth it. Irina rushes to stop her, and is attacked by Sylphie, who also kicks Ginny several meters away. She also kicked Ginny several meters away from her. Sylphie, who was overwhelmed by anger, even tried to kill Irina. At that moment, the second-order form of Yard reappeared. Seeing him in this form, Sylph got even angrier, and directly grabbed her dual swords and stormed towards the hero. Yard tried to use the disarming magic on her, but it didn't work. He thought that it would be better to let Sylphie, who was a brave man, die an honorable death rather than watch her fall into the role of a marvelous killer. So Yard decided to end her with his own hands. Just then a voice made them stop fighting. Sister's voice made Sylphie come to her senses. Then the masked man behind the curtain finally showed up and stated that he was disappointed in Sylphie. After that, he knocked Sylph to the ground and then picked up the two holy swords. In order to resurrect his master, the masked man sees Yard as an obstacle that must be removed, so he intends to do it himself. Instead, he ended up having one of his arms removed. But he wasn't going to give up yet, and prepared to launch a bombardment of the entire royal capital with the other sword. However, he was rejected by the sword. Because holy swords are spiritual and will choose their own masters. Yad showed the masked man the correct way to use the holy sword. The masked man was turned into air as a purple sword aura flew towards him. When it touched the sword on the ground, Lydia reacted again, taking the form of a sword spirit to calm Sylphie down, telling her not to blame Yard. He wasn't wrong to do that. She told Sylphie to live on and that maybe they would see each other again sometime in the future. After saying this, Lydia reverted back to Yard's sword. The scene changes and Yard is summoned to an unknown dimension. The child who claimed to be a god handed them a commission to eliminate a certain character. After that, he drops Yard and the others into the ancient world of 3,000 years ago. Although it was a bit hard to believe seeing the two moons in the sky, and what had been written in the books, they had to believe it was true. Based on the familiar surroundings, the hero deduced that this was the very country he had governed in his previous life. Just as Irina and Ginny were scrambling for the male lead, as usual, a sound in the distance caught their attention. A large scorpion was chasing a woman. Yard rushed forward to help, raising his hand to deliver a double magic, attacking the large scorpion, while he thoughtfully put a shield on the woman. Then the beast-ear teacher from thousands of years ago appeared in front of them. Irina and Ginny excitedly called out her name, Olivia. Olivia wondered why they recognized her. In order not to reveal their identities, Yard explained that they were just fans. Olivia raised her hand and released a magic. Irina and Ginny were put down, but it didn't work on Yard at all. Olivia thinks the boy is okay and asks the hero to join her army. Because of the current war between the humans and the demons, they are in deep water and are in need of a talent like him. Yad said he could, but he had two conditions. First, allow his two harem to join as well. Second, put them in the logistical support unit. After all, they were just ordinary mages. Olivia reluctantly agreed. In fact, Yard was of the opinion that it was safer here, worrying that the two harem would be harmed if they went to the front line. But as soon as the words left his mouth, he was given a surprise. The little girl with two ponytails in front of him was Vita, one of the 4 heavenly kings. She called herself a genius beauty girl magic scholar. Irina and Ginny were a bit disbelieving that this kind of narcissist was actually the symbol of their academy. So they take out their cards and compare them, but it's too much of a difference. After that, Yard shows that they are from the future. Hearing the word future, Vader, who likes to research new things, instantly gets emotional, says he is also researching this field, and decides to help the heroes go back to the real world. Suddenly someone breaks through the door, and it turns out to be Sylphie from this era. She plays cat and mouse with Vader. Seeing that she can't beat her, she calls her sister out to help. I didn't expect them to meet again in this way, and Yard had mixed feelings. However, such a beautiful woman is a womanizer, and she likes to curse with her mouth open. They came here to ask for additional personnel for the front lines, so Vader casually pointed out these 3. When seeing Ginny's perfect body, Lydia instantly became obsessed, and wanted to invite her to spend a dreamy time together. Good lord, she even has this attribute. After saying that, she made a move on Ginny. At this point, Yard, who was on the sidelines, couldn't stand it anymore and forcibly separated them. Lydia angrily stated that she actually badgered her, so wanting to teach the male lead a lesson, she initiated a one-on-one duel. Lydia was furious and wanted to teach the hero a lesson. She initiated a one-on-one duel, and Yard said, "Let's just fight." Then they arrived at the countryside. Lydia with an air of confidence took the lead and attacked the male lead. The two fought to a standstill, but Lydia used a ploy using sand to interfere with Yard's vision, followed by a kick to his face. After that, she follows up with a hard punch that makes the male lead spit out blood straight away. After a short delay, the male lead was sent flying several meters away. And Yard, not to be outdone, turned from passive to active and returned her kick hard. The two fought more and more fiercely hard for an afternoon, and finally both were bruised and swollen. After seeing the strength of the male lead, Lydia wanted to ask him to assist her. And Yard obediently inquired about how to meet the sire here. Lydia tells the hero that he will only be honest with those he trusts, so he can only meet him if he gains his trust through good behavior. Lydia touched the hero's head and wished him good luck. "I didn't realize that it would be so hard for him to meet His Majesty," Yard sighed. With the battle between the human and demon races to seize the territory, it was getting more and more intense. Yad and the others stayed in the logistics unit away from the battlefield, originally thinking that this was the safest place. But as soon as the words left their mouths, they were attacked by the enemy. After all, destroying logistical supplies was the most common thing to do in a battle. The man who manipulated the thunder and lightning crazily ravaged our pawns and showed an extremely smug expression, only to be instantly defeated by the main character. Lydia led her army to capture the castle with ease, thinking that it was too easy. Where did the enemy general run off to? Just as she was feeling puzzled, the soldiers came to report that the logistics unit was sneak attacked by the enemy. Lydia rushed back to support, but when she arrived, she realized that things had already been resolved. Unexpectedly, this person is the enemy's general. Lydia is the one who has been given the opportunity to meet with His Majesty after he has inadvertently made a great achievement. The magnificent and majestic castle makes Irina and Ginny marvel at it. Yad was proud and pleased to hear that, because this is where he used to live. With Lydia leading the way, a few people arrived outside the store. Suddenly a ball of flame attacked towards them. Luckily, Yard reacted quickly and blocked the attack with defense magic. The long-haired man in front of them said that it was his unique way of greeting, so please don't mind it and get used to it. Lydia said angrily, "If you want to fight so badly, then I'll play with you." Hearing that the two were arguing with each other, Varvatos intentionally came out to stop it. His valiant looks directly made Ginny instantly infatuated. "For this kind of cute man in general, I believe that the girls will not be able to hold." Val asked the long-haired man to step back first, then he and the male lead stared at each other for a while. Val didn't realize that Yard was his own reincarnation. Val was surprised to hear Irina and Ginny discussing him using the word Demon Lord, stating that the person being called Demon Lord was clearly someone else. Yad was shocked, thinking that his title of Demon King should be known to everyone at this point in time, but he didn't realize that it had been changed to someone else. Vader, after hearing about this matter, offered a guess. Possibly the time they were in was not in the same dimension. Perhaps someone had changed history, so the Demon King that arose was a character that the male lead and they did not know. Yad then realized that he was the one who misunderstood what that god had said and mistook them both for the same person. So he hypothesized that perhaps by defeating that so-called Demon Lord, they would be able to return to the real world. Ginny suggests that they should make their situation clear to Val, say that they are from the future, and then ask for his assistance. Yad said that it would not be easy to convince Val, and that the only way to gain his trust would be to achieve more battle success. Just as the hero was fretting about this, Lydia then brought an opportunity. Because the enemy this time is a bit tricky, that's why she called Jard over to help. Sylphie explained to him that the opponent to be engaged was the demon at the top of the hierarchy, the spellbound King Mevelas. On hearing this name, the male lead had a very serious expression. Because back then it was this person who was one of the reasons that forced him to kill Lydia. Could it be that history is repeating itself again? When faced with a large group of undead, Sylphie bore the brunt of it. She wants to take all the credit, but Yard takes care of her. At that moment, a blazing fire suddenly appeared in the castle. When they arrived inside, they found that someone had already gotten there first, and the head of the spellbound king was decapitated on the ground. At that moment, a man in armor walked out. He was the Demon King that the man was looking for. The man in armor declared war on Lydia and the others, and after that he simply disappeared. At this unexpected situation, Yard and the others were a bit at a loss for words. In response to the declaration of war initiated by the Demon King, Varvatos decided to send out his entire army, including himself and his 4 heavenly kings, with the intention of wiping out the demon race all in one day. This makes the crowd very excited to finally have a big fight. Koyadu raises a question about how to deal with the Demon King's immortality. Whitehair says he has his own countermeasures and then informs everyone that the showdown will take place in 3 days. Back in his room, Yard ponders the issue of history being altered. Lydia, who was supposed to be dead, is still safe and sound. When he thinks about what the child who claimed to be a god said, the man in armor who suddenly appeared in front of the hero tells him that if he keeps this up, history will be forced to be corrected and Lydia will end up in the same place. Yard is puzzled that he knows about this. But the armor man stated that in front of him one should stop wearing the mask of disguise, for I am you and you are me. After saying this, he took off his helmet. There was actually another self which shocked the hero. Through conversation he learns that he too was brought to this time by the child who claimed to be a god. Though in a different world and with different experiences, both of them are reincarnated Varvatos. However, the armor man wasn't as lucky as the hero. After being reincarnated, whatever he gained he quickly lost it, eventually shedding even his name. Now his goal is to save his lover Lydia and make up for the regrets left back then, which is the same thing the hero wants to do. Because the mission he received from God was to destroy the current world, there was no way to identify himself to others. So he wanted to invite Yard to join forces with himself. Seeing that the hero was a bit hesitant, the armored man gave him 3 days to think about it. While eating, Yard caught everyone's attention with a distracted look. Lydia comes over and says she wants the male lead to accompany her. A day later the two came to the street. Once she sees a pretty girl, Lydia's nature is revealed and she wants to invite this girl for an unforgettable night. She also wants Yad to learn from her, as well, stating that how can she become a solo warrior if she doesn't even know how to seduce a girl. Then the two start beating each other up at the drop of a hat. It turns out that Lydia could tell that the hero had something on his mind and did this to help him vent. The two of them are still kids and they're just jealous of each other, says Yard. Yad asked Lydia, what would you do if you had to sacrifice everything you own in order to get back something you've lost or someone important to you? Lydia didn't answer right away. She asks the hero to use flight magic to go to a place with her, and then the two of them come to a deserted area. This place was originally a city inhabited by the demon race, but because of the war it was destroyed by them to such a miserable state. The ordinary citizens were upset, and in order to retaliate they sneaked up on them during the night, only to be slaughtered by Lydia. Because if they didn't, their companions would have been sacrificed. And since then this place has been filled with the grudges of the dead. Lydia has made this place her guilty place. Yad reassures her not to take it too personally, those people are just demons. But Lydia doesn't feel the same way, believing that demons are no different from humans, and that she's just a murderer. So Lydia decided a long time ago that in order to bring as much peace as possible to the two races she would keep fighting and then die a tragic death. This was also her way of atoning for her sins. Lydia sensed that the hero might have to do something for her. So she cautions Yard not to try to change the way she dies. The scene comes 3 days later when the human-demon duel finally begins. The little girl, one of the 4 heavenly kings, ravages the demons to her heart's content with a mechanical doll of her own making. The beast-eared ninja, one of the 4 heavenly kings, leads his men on a wild killing spree. The old man, one of the 4 heavenly kings, protects the soldiers with defense magic. Pleasure man, one of the 4 heavenly kings, thinks that this kind of fight is too meaningless and prepares to release an enemy-unfriendly stance. Fortunately, Varvatos stops him. It's not bad to be a demon king sitting at home and being in control of the battle. Lydia on this side was also fighting hard. Even though they were minions, there were too many of them for them to deal with. Silverfield accused Yard of running away. Then Lydia seemed to have thought of something, so she handed the battlefield over to Sylphie and left in a hurry. Yard came to the designated place and met with himself as previously agreed. But the reply he gave was that he would not join forces with him to save Lydia, as the man in armor wanted to respect her wishes. The armored man was furious when he heard this, and then he launched a magical attack towards the male lead and changed into his own magical costume. But no matter how they fought, neither of their moves worked against each. After all, they were the same person, and both used the same abilities. The man in armor thought that there was no way to tell the winner from the other. However, the armor man had already expected this to happen. He purposely set the day for the two to meet on today just to stop the tragedy from happening again. On the other hand, since they came to this world, Irina and Ginny became irrelevant characters and were not used at all. Irina felt a little lost. At that moment the maid came over and lied that the master had given them a secret mission. The two of them, eager to make a difference, went to the castle immediately. The maid told them that the armor man's immortal body is actually a separation of soul and body. As long as he destroys the crystal stone in the castle that serves as a medium, he will lose his ability to be undead. Irina is a bit unconfident about this task, and Ginny motivates her in a special way. Then Irina immediately became confident. On the other hand, the human-demon battle continues. Before the 4 heavenly kings' mighty strength, these pawns can only be ravaged. The ninjas with their maids are also invincible. Only Sylphie seems to be struggling a bit to deal with them. Then Irina and Ginny arrived at their destination. They were just about to destroy the crystal stone, but they were caught in a trap on the ground. They were bound to the cross. It turns out that this maid also wants to save Lydia and intends to use these two to threaten the hero and force him to join forces with the armor man. In fact, the armor man is so insistent on saving Lydia in order to atone for his own sins. As long as he can change his fate of killing Lydia with his own hands, even if it means destroying the world, he will do anything. While Irina and Ginny's regular magic was sealed, the male bishop's unlettering magic still worked. Seeing the two who were free from their bonds, the maid expressed her lack of fear and raised her hand to summon a group of magical beasts. Just then Lydia rushed over. And she was able to find this place because of the headdress that was given to them earlier, a magical tool with a locator function. After Irina's persuasion, the maid still refused to stop there. So Lydia defeats her first, and then starts to clean up the magical beasts. As a brave person who protects the world and humanity, Lydia is always ready to give her life. In addition, she is burdened with countless blood debts, so even if she goes to hell, she will gladly accept it. Lydia wanted to die as a brave, so she didn't want anyone to change her fate. After taking care of the small monsters, Lydia leapt forward and shattered the crystal. Even though her attempt was sabotage, the armored man still wanted the hero to join. But Yard's attitude clearly indicated that he would not join hands with him. Seeing that he couldn't say anything to the other side, the armored man became infuriated and planned to use force to solve the problem. Then both of them transformed into their second-order forms at the same time, and grabbed their magic swords to attack each other. They fought and argued at the same time. Remembering what he said to Lydia, the armor man regretted it. In fact, he didn't want her to be in danger, but he didn't express it frankly, and in the end Lydia ended up in such a miserable state. He had been very remorseful about this, so he guessed that he would take this opportunity to save Lydia and then let her finish herself off with her own hands. So the armored man concentrated all his strength and prepared to launch a final attack on the hero. However, his attack was blocked by his own magic sword. Lydia stated that she didn't want him to continue like this. The hero also realized what she meant and used his magic sword to knock the armored man down. Watching him continue to be obsessed, the hero decides to end him, which is also a way to completely end his entanglement with himself. After completing the mission delivered by God, Yard is about to return to the future world. And so are Irina and Ginny. Lydia also noticed their abnormality. After learning that the future will be a world full of laughter, she feels relieved and believes that her efforts have not been in vain. She asks Irina to deliver a message to the hero. On the other hand, because of a group of excellent subordinates, the white-haired male lead has already won the human-demon battle before he has a chance to exert himself. When the three reawaken, they realize that they had arrived at the destination of the off-campus special training. Irina delivers Lydia's message to Yard that no matter what happens, they will always be close friends. Just then Lydia appears in spirit form and pushes the hero, pointing him to the far side. She wanted him to let go of the past and face the present head-on. After Lydia had conveyed her meaning, she disappeared from Yard's sight. Finally, the story ends here, and it has a happy ending of sorts. Well, that's the end of today's video. Thanks for your support and watching. Well, see you in the next installment.